Welcome, everybody. My name is Chef Emily Berner, coming to you from the New York-Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital's Teaching Kitchen. Delighted that you've all joined us for today's class, Craving Busters. So I hope everybody is doing well today on this beautiful day. I'm really grateful that you're taking the time out of your day to join me in this little exploration about cravings. And just a few Zoom ground rules before we begin. So everybody, please keep yourself muted throughout the presentation, just to avoid any feedback, background noise and things like that. Usually we ask that people put questions in the chat box, but I'm actually down a moderator today. So it's going to be you and me. And if you do have questions, and certainly I welcome and encourage all of your questions, you can unmute yourself, ask the question, and then mute yourself again. And then if you're not comfortable doing that, you can also email me any of your questions and I can get to them after class. So I'm happy to answer questions more privately that way as well. So you've got two options. One is to unmute yourself when you have a question and ask it, and then remember to mute yourself again. And then the other one would be to email me your question regarding this class directly to my email address, which you should all have since you registered for this. So with that, let's begin. Everybody should have gotten a packet of information. Looks a little bit like this. And if not, I can send this to all participants after the program. I'll be sending this out. So you will have it by the end of today, 100%. And I just want to direct everybody's attention to the first page, which talks about what are food cravings. Everybody has them, right? It's something that everybody experiences once in a while. Oh my gosh, I must have pizza, French fries, chocolate. It's usually the unhealthy stuff. I don't know a lot of folks out there that are craving kale and blueberries, but certainly there's a lot of cravings for the unhealthier things. So I just want to discuss a little bit about what are cravings. They're one of the biggest reasons why often people struggle with weight, have problems losing weight and keeping it off is due to cravings. And they're intense, uncontrollable desires for specific foods, which are stronger than normal hunger. So that's our working definition of cravings for us to think about together. And in putting together this packet, I really took a step back to think, well, why are we having cravings? Where do they come from? Why do they exist? And in my research, I found all these different reasons that potentially could be why we have cravings. So you have a nice long list here because it's never just one simple thing, right? There's a lot of reasons. And the ones that I thought were the most interesting were the first one, suppressed thoughts, viewing certain foods as forbidden or actively trying to suppress your desire to eat them often intensifies cravings for them. So how many of us have experienced that, saying, okay, I'm going to swear off cookies and cake and I'm not going to have that. And then the craving intensifies and all you want to eat is that food, right? So it's really interesting how when we make something forbidden for ourselves, we want it even more. So there's a very interesting kind of psychological aspect to cravings as well. Another one that I was interested by is specific moods, that food cravings may be triggered by specific moods. We hear this all the time, comfort foods, right? When we're feeling stressed or anxious, and there's been a lot of stress and anxiety this past year. Don't know if you noticed, but certainly that can be a triggering effect for cravings, right? That can bring about cravings. When you're looking to self-soothe, you're using food almost as a medicine to help you feel better, right? But it ends up down the line potentially negatively impacting your health. Stress, high stress levels, sort of related to specific mood, insufficient sleep. Anyone notice that when they have sort of a shorter night of sleep, or don't sleep so well, that their carb cravings intensify? Does anybody else experience that? I certainly do, right? When you're not feeling your best, you look for quick sources of energy, things that are going to give you a boost and a lift. Maybe that's caffeine, maybe that's pizza, right? It may depend on the person. So certainly, I thought that was really interesting as well to learn about. And then nutritional deficiencies. Sometimes if you're deficient in a particular nutrient, or you're not getting enough protein or fiber, it's really important. One of the reasons here at the Teaching Kitchen, we emphasize including a lot of fruits and vegetables and healthy lean proteins and heart healthy fibers and all that good stuff is not only because it supports your health, but also because it's going to help kind of combat the cravings from any kind of deficiencies that may occur, right? So often I hear, if you haven't had a breakfast that includes a protein and a fiber, usually around 3 or 4 o'clock, your energy will dip. So what can you do between breakfast and that time frame to ensure, like, what are you getting enough fiber and protein at the start of your day to kind of set yourself up, right? You want to set yourself up at the start of your day, and then throughout the day, it's going to be a little bit easier to manage those cravings. And then, of course, there could be hormonal aspects as well. Fluctuating hormones may cause unique cravings. So cortisol is a really interesting hormone. Cortisol is often produced in stressful situations. So it's a hormone that is elicited by that fight or flight response. When we are in flight mode, our cortisol goes up, and that's a stress hormone. That's a hormone in response to stress. That can cause food cravings, right? So you experience a stressful situation, you enter the fight or flight kind of scenario, and your cortisol goes up because you're stressed. And then you're looking for ways to bring that cortisol down and self-soothe. And that's one of the areas in which we find a lot of cravings can occur. So any questions about all of that before we talk a little bit about managing cravings, and of course, make some delicious recipes for all of you. If you have a question today, feel free to unmute yourself and ask it. We have a little bit of a different format since our moderator is otherwise occupied. So if anyone has anything so far, anyone want to share a time they've experienced a craving? Or we can jump right in. We can also jump right in. So I'm not seeing anybody's hand or anything. Okay, so we'll carry on then with some recipes and tips for managing cravings. So I also included another nice long list here for you guys to look at. This is a hefty handout for you all today. Different tips for managing food cravings. Things like avoiding certain triggers, avoiding specific situations, or maybe taking a different road that doesn't drive by the McDonald's and the Burger King, so you don't have to see it and smell it every time, right? So avoiding certain triggers. I think it's really helpful to create and carry a list of reasons that you want to eat a certain way. What do you want your health for? What's important to you about being healthy? It's such a simple question, and everyone's like, well, of course I want to be healthy so I can live longer, so I can enjoy, etc. But what is it for you specifically? What do you want your health for, right? So keeping that list of reasons that you want to eat a certain way can be really helpful, because anytime you may experience, you can put it on your refrigerator, you can make a copy and keep it in your wallet or something like that, and read your list, read it to yourself, and to ask yourself, okay, is this, if I satisfy this craving, how does that relate to my health goals? Other things that I thought were really interesting in relationship to cravings were avoiding artificial sweeteners. So this is one of the reasons I generally don't recommend artificial sweeteners, is because it can intensify cravings for sweet things. So you may think, oh, I'm just having a Diet Coke, that's good because it doesn't have any sugar in it, but it might intensify your craving for sweet things. And then later on in the day, you might be craving, cookies and cakes and other things because your palate has that kind of sweet circuit running. And then finally, supporting your gut health. So cravings may be due to unhealthy condition in the intestinal tract. So another reason we want to support our microbiome. So really good. There's so much more in here, but those are just some of the ones that I highlighted. I thought they were particularly interesting. And then there's other, tips for managing food cravings in here too. All right, so let's make some recipes. Any questions about any of that before we dive into our cooking? All right. So as a reminder to everyone, I just saw a few people joining us recently. If you have any questions today, special day, feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question directly, and then mute yourself when you're done. All right, so we're gonna start by heating up. I'm using cast iron today because I really like the way onions and peppers and mushrooms kind of saute together in a cast iron pan. It just works really well, browns nicely. And this is our pizza substitute. So hopefully you can make this a little bit faster than you even can order in a pizza. Millie, I see that you have a question. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask it?
Yeah, thanks, Emily. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. How are you?
I know you don't see me, but good to see you. So basically, a lot of great tips, as I said in the chat. Question: will they be somewhere in documentation for us to be able to reference?
Yes, absolutely. So everything that I mentioned so far is all in this handout, which you should have received via email. If you didn't receive it, I'm also going to send it to everybody after class.
I got it. Yeah, I got it.
All right, perfect. So you have everything in there.
These sessions are being recorded. I don't know if it's bold to ask.
They are, yes. The sessions are recorded, and it will also go on our website and sent out to you after the class. So you can...
Thank you.
Thank you, Millie. All right, everybody. So I'm going to start with our onion. I feel like every good recipe starts with an onion, right? So this one is left over from a previous class this week. It's already cleaned and cut in half. And I'm just going to make nice thin slices straight across the top. You don't have to do a dice on this. I kind of like the way the long thin strips caramelize and cook together with the peppers and mushrooms and all that good stuff. So feel free to just make a few, slices across. Toss that at the bottom. And we'll start with a little olive oil in this pan. We're using extra virgin olive oil. We're not going to heat things too high, so I'm not very worried about altering the temperature of the olive oil because we're just going to go for a light saute. Nothing's going to get smoked or anything too aggressive in terms of heat. So starting with our olive oil, let's get our onion, kind of use that wooden spoon to break everything up. Right? Onions aren't great because you just kind of slice them one way and then they fall apart the other. So it's really a very useful food for us. And they add great flavor to everything, right? If you don't like onions, we're starting with the toppings for our pizza. I don't know if I mentioned that. So we're starting with the toppings with our onions, our red pepper, and our shiitake mushrooms. All right, so starting with that, this is the shiitake mushroom from the grocery store. I generally with shiitake mushrooms, they are already, these ones are already fairly clean, but if you needed to, you could use a damp cloth and just brush off any dirt, right? So that's the best way to work with mushrooms. And a great way to store them is I usually actually take them out of, this like plasticky container thing, and I put them into a paper bag. And they keep in the refrigerator in a paper bag really well, usually for about 5 to 7 days. It depends on how fresh your grocery store is, right? Sometimes the grocery store will have things sitting there for a while, and then by the time they get to your house, they're already 5 days old. You never really think about that. Okay, so just getting this going over a medium heat. And then with our mushroom, just curl your fingers, make sure you do that little claw shape and tuck your thumb to slice your mushrooms in nice thin strips. So we're again starting with the toppings. I'm going to cut off the top of the bell pepper, take off the seeds. So I do this by using the top quarter of my knife and just disconnecting the seeds from the flesh of the pepper very carefully, making sure not to cut all the way through, right? And then you can go in, twist, and pull. You've got all your seeds out. Did a good job on that one. Not a seed left. All right. So you can, of course, do any toppings you want on your pizza. My goal here is to offer a little bit of veggies with your pizza, right? So often, if you're ordering pizza, you really have a pizza craving. That's what you want to eat. It's a must for you. Instead of ordering, if you're going to order a regular pizza, cut some veggies on there. It doesn't have to be a lot, but it'll still be something. There's already tomato sauce, which is a start, but why not add some peppers and mushrooms and onions, or even some, wilted spinach. Ask for arugula if they have it on top of your pizza is really nice. Just adding some veggies in there, right? Because any little bit of vegetables helps and counts. right? Okay, so I'm just cutting this into thinner strips. I usually offer the suggestion to put it on the flat side so things don't roll around. But with peppers, because the skins are a little bit harder to cut through, I just I put it on the flesh side and I kind of use the curvature of the pepper to cut along into these nice strips. Okay, and certainly you don't have to use all of this, but any kind of veggie will do. Zucchini is really good too on top of pizza. I like it. So in it goes. Let's add our mushrooms as well. These are shiitake, but you could use, baby bella cremini, really toppings of your choice. The goal is add a vegetable or two to your pizza, if you're feeling brave. Any questions so far? Okay. So we are tapping into our childhood selves with this pizza. I don't know how many of you used to have this when you were a kid, these English muffin pizzas, right? It's a really simple, easy way to, kind of get a pizza fix without ordering the pizza and all that stuff. And it's really simple to put together. So you have a very quick and easy, delicious pizza solution. So here are the English muffins. I'm just going to start by toasting them. I kind of like to toast them the craggly side down. And I'm just going to start by toasting them in the oven that's already preheated and get that going. Just so that they get nice and crunchy first. Because what I find with these English muffin pizzas is that, if you don't toast them first and you just put the sauce and veggies on, they just get soggy. There's no like crunch or textural component to them. So I like to toast them first. Then I'm going to top them with some marinara and a little bit of goat cheese and some veggies. And it's going to go pop into the oven, and that's going to be it. It's a very simple recipe. Any questions about that? Just to make sure I'm not missing anything. No, perfect. You can top it with basil if you want, of course. Add a pinch of salt to your veggies. All right. Yeah, this is an easy one. It's like an oldie but goodie, and it's kind of like revamped. I want to just make note on the English muffins that I'm using. They are whole wheat. So another tip, right? Because a lot of pizza places aren't going to have whole wheat pizza. At least here, you're kind of getting that fix. And these are 100% whole wheat. You can see that right there. There's also a wonderful bakery around here, a woman that makes English muffins. They're called Damn Good English Muffins, DAM. And she makes them and sells them, I think, at Kohl's Market, and then a couple other places at Marble Meat Shop in Cold Spring. So that's really nice. It's hard to find English muffins that don't have a lot of other stuff added to them. But hers are very pure products, and they're really tasty, and they work well for this recipe too, if you wanted to venture out and try to find that. And then English muffins, of course, they freeze well too, right? So if you keep a batch in your freezer when you're having a pizza craving, you can just pop one into the microwave, defrost it, toast it, toppings, and you're done. All right.
Question.
So, yeah.
If you want to saute the vegetables ahead of time, how long do you keep them in the refrigerator so that you're not doing it the last minute?
Great question. Thank you for asking that. You can absolutely saute your veggies ahead of time. Makes it a lot easier, right? Because if you do this kind of meal prep, then you're ready. If the pizza craving hits, you're ready with your veggies. I generally store vegetables in the refrigerator, airtight container, 5 to 7 days. So that's my rule of thumb. If there's like meat or fish or anything like that, I don't go more than 3. And then eggs, sort of similar to meat and fish and dairy and all that. It's more around 3 days. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Any other questions? Okay, great.
Hey, Emily.
Yes, hello.
It's Ken. How are you?
Hi, nice to hear you.
Is there a substitute for the English muffin that might be a little less carb rich?
Oh, that's a really good question, Ken. Thank you so much for asking that and watching today. So certainly if you are gluten-free or just trying to avoid carbs for whatever reason, I think you know, a lot of the pizza craving is for the carbohydrate itself. But you can look for sort of lower carby starches, things like a sweet potato, or what else have I done? Sort of, it ends up not really being a pizza. It ends up being like a sweet potato, you know, cut side open and baked with like veggies and sauce and cheese on top, but it's still very satisfying. So I've done this with sweet potatoes before, just baked. You can slice them in half and bake them until they're soft. Usually that takes like 30 to 40 minutes though, so it's not as quick as that ordering pizza. So I like a sweet potato option. And then I think they may sell like low carb wraps, things like that are thinner. I know that they sell some that are like almond flour based, or, you know, cassava flour or things like that they might be a little bit harder to find, but you could do this on a wrap as well. So you could just kind of, you know, lay the wrap open and kind of do it like pizza style. You're not going to be able to like cut into it and hold it up like a slice, but you'll be able to kind of fold it in half and have a little bit of that satiating pizza experience.
Great,
Yeah,
thank you.
Ken. Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for watching. Wonderful questions, everybody. Yeah, definitely with the pizza, we want carbs, right? I think another alternative, Ken, I haven't tried these, but I know that they sell the cauliflower pizza crust frozen in the grocery store. So that could be an option as well. You just have a couple cauliflower pizza crusts frozen in your refrigerator, and then you put all your healthy, delicious toppings on it that way. All right, everybody, we're going to keep moving things along here. We have quite a few more recipes. The second one we're going to be making is our chickpea cookie dough. So as that's just finishing up, we're going to start with the chickpea cookie dough. So this is for my cookie dough fans, my sweet craving friends, and it has chickpeas in it, as per the name, and it's really, really satisfying. It contains no eggs or anything like that, nor do I intend for this to be baked. So let me say that again. This is cookie dough that you don't bake. It's just for, you know, us people out there who like the whole Toll House thing and just go at it with a spoon, and, you know, before we know it, we've had the whole thing. So I'm going to teach you how to make this sort of guilt-free cookie dough. I'm just going to check on the English muffins. They must be toasted by now. Yeah, they're getting nice. They have a nice little toasted effect on them. All right, you know what? Maybe I will just quickly assemble this first, put these in the oven, and then we'll do the cookie dough. I apologize. Just want to get them back in so everything has a chance to melt. All right. Can you all see the cutting board still? Yes, perfect. So our veggies are nice, soft, sauteed, and this is the easy part. You just kind of assemble it, right? A little bit of sauce. If you want, you can put a tiny bit of olive oil between the sauce and the English muffin, just a little layer. Because oil is hydrophobic, it helps to keep things crunchy. So it just will work to kind of create a barrier between the sauce and the English muffin, so that you have a little bit more of a crunch experience. If you're a crunch person, you know, not everybody craves crunch like I do, but certainly it helps because oil will create that barrier. All right, we've got our veggies. So I'm just going to, they are off, and they have a nice kind of softness to them, a little browning, right? The peppers could be a little bit softer, but they're going to get a little more in the oven. So you can add your vegetables to each one. And again, feel free to get really creative with this. Broccoli, cauliflower, you know, zucchini, leeks, really, really tons of options with your vegetables. And, you know, it's always good to try to add something green, whether it's basil on top, or, you know, or it's a little sauteed spinach or arugula or something yummy like that. This one only has peppers on it and doesn't have any onions and mushrooms. There. Okay, so we've got our sauce, we've got our veggies. Let's add the cheese. So I'm using a nice crumbled goat cheese today, but you could add your own, you know, preferred type of cheese. I like goat cheese because generally it's a little less in saturated fat. It's also gives you like that nice cheesy satisfaction without kind of overdoing it. So it's kind of a good fix. Of course, if you're dairy-free, of course, use your dairy-free cheese of choice. There's so many varieties out there now that you can choose from. It's really a good time to be dairy-free and gluten-free and all that. There's still a lot of choices. So how simple, right? In you go. We'll see you in 5 minutes or 10. Put that to the side. All right, and back to our cookie dough. So very, very simple, this one. Here's our can of chickpeas. Important to drain and rinse before you get started, right? We're using about 3/4 of a cup. So I have a 1 cup scoop here. I'm just gonna do a little bit shy of a cup. And I need a little bit more than that. All right, and chickpeas, of course, chickpeas, really, really, really good source of fiber and protein. They're part of the legume family. They contain vitamins and minerals, of course, like folate and iron and all that good stuff that you're not going to find in your traditional cookie dough. And they're low in calories. And because they are a legume, they help to slow carbohydrate absorption. So they help to control your blood sugar due to that fiber and protein in there. We're going to use some coconut sugar in here. So about 1/3 of a cup. You can also start with less if you want and taste it at 1/4 cup and see how it is for you. Let's add some vanilla extract, as much as you like. I usually do about 1/2 teaspoon to a teaspoon. We're gonna use some almond flour today. And again, with the almonds, right? Almonds are a great source of fiber and protein and monounsaturated fats. So really good stuff for you in this cookie dough. So there's 1, 2. You can kind of check it and see the consistency. We can always add 1/3 later. And then I have a little bit of almond milk here to add as well. I'm just going to get this pulsed together. And do we have any questions or comments? I'm going to add a pinch of salt. Everyone's like, this is the strangest version of hummus I've ever seen, right? So we're going to let that go for a bit. There we go. We're going to add a little bit of that almond milk. Gosh, it looks just like cookie dough. It's really like mind-boggling. So you really want to make sure that everything gets well integrated. So use your little scraper here, your spatula, to scrape everything down. And remember when I said we're going to use 2 to 3 scoops of the almond flour? I'm going to do 3 just because I want it. I like it a little bit thicker, consistency-wise. There we go. And then I've got these mini chocolate chips here that we're going to add in. So very unusual recipe with chickpeas, but I really think it's like, it has almost an identical consistency to cookie dough. And then with the sweetness of the coconut sugar and a little bit of vanilla and the chocolate chips, it's really quite good. So there you have it. Look at that. Nestle's Toll House has nothing on us, right? Any other questions? Saw another one pop up from Ellen. Ellen, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question today? If you'd like to. If not, you can email me and I'm happy to answer it later.
Oh, hi. No, I was answering a question.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry, I had to find myself to unmute.
That's all right. Thank you so much.
Pam had written, I came in late. What type of bread did you use for those mini pizzas? So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Muffins.
Yeah. So Pam, I'm down a moderator today. So if anybody has any questions, again, feel free to jump in and ask. And I appreciate you answering each other's questions. That's really helpful too. Thank you, Ellen. I think I saw a raised hand. I'm calling on you. I guess that would be Millie.
Well, I think somebody had a raised hand before me, but you put in a little salt in there. Would it be okay to use Himalayan sea salt?
Yeah, of course. You can use your salt of preference. Definitely. I just want to show you this because it's really uncanny. Look at that. It looks exactly like cookie dough. So I like to refrigerate this. and eat it, as a snack in the afternoon. Don't want to have it too late, but it's a nice treat. All right, we're gonna mosey on to our third recipe for cravings. So this might be my favorite one. Hard to choose today, but this is the Better chocolate bar. So certainly chocolate cravings, I experience them. Most of us do at some point during the day or our lives. Maybe you're not a sweets person. So if you're not, good for you. I don't know how you do it. But certainly I've found that a lot of chocolate bars, first of all, they contain palm oils, they contain chocolate liqueur, things that just aren't that nutritive. So, and they also contain a lot of sugar, of course, right? So let's make our own using a little bit of raw honey instead. And here's our Dutch processed cocoa powder. So I do prefer when I'm making this, finding the Dutch processed one. It looks like this. What does that mean? It's processed with alkali. So that helps. Chocolate naturally is fairly acidic, but when you process it with alkali, it makes it a little more like just not as sharp and sort of back here. It's like almost that rich fudgy brownie flavor. That's the difference. So I preferred the Dutch process, but if you like the sharpness of the super raw cacao, feel free to use that. Absolutely, acceptable as well. Just make sure it's not your sweetened Nesquik, right? You want to make sure there's no sugar or anything in this. You're adding your own with the honey. So this is very, very simple. We're going to start with 2 tablespoons of almond butter. So 1 and 2. And just a note, if you are allergic to nuts and seeds, certainly feel free to make a substitution with sunflower seed butter. I'm going to pull this over here so you can see a little bit better. We're going to be using 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, our 3 tablespoons of raw honey, and you can add less. If you are, trying to really watch that sugar intake, even with the raw honey and all that, definitely you can add, what's appropriate for you. So I like that these recipes are really, really flexible based on your needs. All right, so we've got our wet ingredients in there: honey, almond butter, and coconut oil, and it looks a little bit like this. I love this class because it's like reminds me of when I was a kid and I would just do all these funky science experiments in the kitchen to try to make things taste good. So here we go. We've got 1/2 cup of the powder, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Is it's going to be a little sticky, so you're going to have to kind of work at it with your spatula, but you're going to end up producing almost like this, almost like a dough texture. So you'll see it starts off, and be careful, work around the bowl, the edges of the bowl, kind of fold that in. I'm kind of smushing it down, working around the edge, fold it in, smush it down, and be patient with this process. You're going to think, oh my gosh, is this chocolate powder ever going to get absorbed? But it will, and you're going to get this really, really nice fudgy texture. And then we're going to put it between 2 pieces of parchment paper, kind of roll it out, and then you're going to put it in the fridge or freezer for your chocolate fix, and I'll show you what it looks like when we take it out in about 10 minutes. So now we have, it's almost like a Play-Doh consistency. No wonder I like this, right? You have almost a Play-Doh consistency here. So there it is, right? It looks like a nice, thick, sticky, gorgeous chocolate mess. I'm gonna check on our pizzas. Oh my gosh, they smell so good. A few more minutes just to let that goat cheese brown a little bit more. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, if you want to add, this is optional, to your Better chocolate bar, if you want to add hemp seeds, these are hemp hearts. They contain tons of fiber as well as protein, 10 grams of protein in 3 tablespoons. So you can feel free to integrate some of that and just kind of give your chocolate a little extra nutrient boost, right? Adding some protein, adding some fiber. You're barely going to taste them in there. And so they actually add a nice funky little texture. If you're also a coconut fan, feel free to add some shredded coconut to this. You can see I'm just kind of working these hemp seeds into this, but that's it. So it's really nice nice consistency here. All right, so let's get our parchment paper. You can use 2 sheets, or I just thought of this, you could use 1 and fold it in half. You've got sort of this dough texture. So now fold it in half, and you can just press it to be the thickness and size of your chocolate bar that you would like. You can make it super thin if you want. You can get a rolling pin and really roll it down, or you can make it a little bit thicker. That's up to you. So we have this, we now have this, and it's very malleable. You see how it's like almost stretchy, right? So it won't be like that after you put it in the fridge or freezer for a bit. So we'll just seal that all in, put it to the side for a bit, and we'll check on it in 10 minutes at the end of class. May take a little longer than 10 minutes to kind of get it more solid texture. Any other questions? How's everybody doing out there so far?
Emily,
Making you all crave these foods. Yes.
can you suggest when you open up a brand new jar of almond butter and there's obviously the oil separated, I end up taking a bath in the olive oil while I'm trying to mix it. Is there any better way of doing it?
Oh my goodness. Story of my life. Thank you for asking. So yes, there is a better way of doing it. I like to, first thing I do when I get home with the almond butter, store it in the pantry upside down. So it just helps to kind of move some of those oils to the other side. So I store it that way usually for about a week or 2, and then some of the oils will go the other way. But it is a fact of life. It is a fact of life. I think, they make these almond butters that come in little packets that you need with your hands and things like that. I mean, of course, they're not reasonable from an economic standpoint or environmental standpoint, because you need to buy a lot of them and probably using a lot of almond butter. So, that's an option though, if it's really the bane of your existence. But certainly, storing it upside down helps. And then I use like a long butter knife, and I kind of go around the edge first.
Okay.
Kind of go around the edge slowly and kind of work that oil down. Do it over the sink or in the sink. If you can set it down and do it in the sink, that's always helpful too. And good luck.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question. All right, our final recipe is for our ice cream fans. So I have some frozen banana that, this is a great thing to do. I always tell people never throw out a banana, because bananas are delicious. They're very sweet and they're high in potassium, as we know, and they come from really far away to nourish us. So I don't like to throw them out. And if I'm, leaving for a trip, or I bought a bunch of bananas and they're all ripe at once, and I'm not going to eat 10 bananas in a day, peel them first, chop them up into slices, or even just peel them and break them in half, put them in a Ziploc bag, and you've got frozen bananas for your smoothie or your little ice cream shake, as we're going to make today. So here are the frozen bananas. It's important that they be frozen for this, otherwise it's not going to have that kind of milkshake consistency. We're going to add a cup of frozen blueberries, just because, again, we're trying to bump up our nutrients when we have a craving. Here goes some vanilla extract. And oh, you know what I forgot to add to the chocolate, and this is important, is a pinch of salt. But we can put it on top and kind of sprinkle it over the top. The salt really, really makes it exceptional. Leave it out if you're trying to avoid salt, of course. All right, so same thing here with our cocoa powder, same cocoa powder, and a little bit of almond milk, or your choice of preferred milk. And this is it. We're just gonna blend this together to get kind of that rich, smoothie, chocolate, ice creamy, satisfying flavor. Again, I like to add pinches of salt to anything sweet, because it helps to bring out the sweetness. Salt brings out flavor. It's not just its own flavor, it works in combination with everything else. So this is like a beautiful chocolate. Oh my gosh, it smells good. Chocolate mix, and you could, either drink it, or you can see how thick it is, right? That's what the frozen fruit does. Makes it nice and thick and frothy. Any questions? That was the easiest one, right? So instead of driving out to the ice cream store, keep those frozen fruits in your freezer, and you're ready to make this, satisfying ice cream like chocolate shake, and it'll be better for you because it has blueberries in it and bananas and all those good things.
Oh.
You could add spinach too if you're feeling really brave. Yeah.
Hi, were the blueberries frozen too, or just the bananas?
Good question. The blueberries are also frozen. I've had them out for almost an hour though, so at this point they're perhaps not as frozen. But yeah, the blueberries and bananas are both frozen, and that's really the key, I think, to getting that like frozen ice cream kind of satisfying texture and taste.
Emily?
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
In answer to the question about the almond butter.
Oh yes, please.
I find I take it out of the jar and put it in a small bowl, and then I can mix it much more easily because it's so solid and trying to
and you
get
have
the
more
oil in.
space.
And then I just keep it in a bowl in the refrigerator with, covered with saran wrap.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's a great solution. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, these look yummy. They look crunchy and full of veggies, and they're going to be delicious without a doubt because they've got onions, peppers, and goat cheese and tomato sauce. So definitely can't go wrong with that, right? If you were feeling particularly nutrient dense and you wanted to add a protein, you could poach an egg and serve this with a poached egg on top. It's sort of like a breakfast pizza or a brunch item. I think that it works that way too. So we have about 2 minutes left. And in that time, I just want to talk a little bit about a really important thing to think about when you're thinking about cravings is shifting that internal dialogue. So often, the first time someone told me, if you're having too much chocolate or whatever, you're having too much of something. And my reaction was, well, I could never give up my chocolate. What am I going to do without chocolate? Instead, I sort of thought, okay, well, chocolate is one of the only things that really gives me a burst of feel-good energy. And without it, I'm scared. I'm scared of feeling deprived. So being honest with yourself and getting to the root cause of what is the reason that you don't want to give something up, it really helps give us a lot of clarity because it gets to the heart of our clinging. So just asking yourself that question, be honest with yourself. What is the true reason that you don't want to give up that glass of wine, that coffee, that chocolate? It might be filling a need in your life. And what is that need? And really taking the time to ask yourself that question and examine it. It's worth the journey. It's important to think about. So understanding the root cause of the clinging, it's really worth it because it starts to kind of peel back these layers and it shows us what we're really working with. That alone can be eye-opening and might lead to unexpected changes. One thing that it doesn't do is it doesn't make it any easier to quit the chocolate or the coffee. And just like quitting any habit, that's really no longer serving you or your body, it takes dedication, it takes commitment, and there's really no secret formula. But it is helpful to try to understand where is it coming from, and then what can you do in order to support yourself in a different way. If you always are craving chocolate at 4 p.m., that tends to be my weak point, my trigger. What can I do instead that can nourish that need, right? Okay, so. And then the last thing I always like to remind people is that wherever you are at your journey, you're right where you need to be. Just make a promise to yourself to always be honest about why you're choosing to keep certain things in your life. Give yourself that power, and it'll at least be a foundational space from which you can maybe make a change. So thank you so much, everybody. I'll take a final question or two. It is 1:15. So do we have any final questions or anything?
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoy these little, healthier pizzas, your chickpea cookie dough, your milkshake, and I'm going to show you this chocolate just so you can see how the texture has completely changed, right? It's no longer malleable. You can snap it and you can enjoy it. Just break it up into pieces, keep it in your fridge or freezer. That's important, right? It has coconut oil in it, so the coconut oil will melt otherwise, but enjoy it straight from the fridge or freezer. It just melts and it's really lovely. So I hope you all enjoy, everybody.
On the pizza, how many do you take for a serving?
Yeah, so that's a good question. How many do you take for a serving? I can't remember what I wrote. I want to be consistent with what I wrote. Okay, so I said serves 6 for English muffins. So I did 3 English muffins, right? Yes, 1, 2, there they are. 3. So if I were to do 4, I would have 8 pieces. And I said serves 6, but I think 2 halves or 1 whole English muffin would be a serving per person, more or less. Depends on how hungry the person is and what else they've eaten that day. Right.
A question, how can the recordings be on the website? Do you know?
When will they be on the website?
For how long?
Oh, for how long? Permanently on the website.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and I forgot, I wanted to make a brief announcement. We are starting up our virtual Healthy Heart program next week. It starts on Wednesdays at 5:30. It's a combination of 4 sessions. It will feature one of our physicians, and then I'll guide you through some different nutritional values and recipes for each class. And it's a little bit, part cooking class, but also coaching. And it's a smaller group. There's only 15 spots. I think we only have a few spots left. And the request is that you try to, commit to the 4 sessions, because we really see the best results with folks when they do that. And it's bi-weekly, so every other week. So our first session is June 16th. The second will be June 30th, and then July 14th and July 28th. So it's over 2 months. You kind of stay with us and we work together to focus on your heart health goals and your nutritional goals and things like that. You do not need to have a heart health condition in order to participate. Maybe you want to learn more for yourself or a loved one, someone you're caring for. So certainly it's open to everybody and it is free of charge. So thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful weekend ahead. Looks like we're going to have fantastic weather. So hope you can get outside and enjoy.
One more question.
Yeah.
How do you eat the cookie dough?
With a spoon.